Good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, August 24th, 2020. The time is 9:02 a.m. Officially calling this meeting to order. It is a special meeting of our Airport and Airport Advisory Board for an update. Attending commissioners, right, Duncan, Brooks, and Filios. Do we have any changes to the agenda? None? Okay. First business item for discussion, proposed taxiway nomenclature. Stephen?
Commissioners, Stephen Kiergaard. So what this is a lot of our actually all of our taxiways do not follow FAA guidance on taxiway naming. So the FAA has been pushing us that we need to rename all of our taxiways. We actually did 5 examples and sent them to the FAA, and they basically came back with this one that we've sent, that you have before you. We are still going to go out and get some more public input from the pilot groups and pilots on the field, make sure that everybody's kind of in concurrence with this. We talked about leaving Alpha and Bravo and things, a lot of things staying the same. We even submitted something where we actually started with Zulu, starting at the end of the alphabet. Because what it is taxiway November technically should be, the northern taxiway should technically be taxiway Alpha. And then the one directly on the other side, 624, should actually be Bravo. And then Alpha should be Charlie. And then Delta should be the new one adjacent to 220. The problem is once you start going down that path and an airport that's been established for over 70 years, you get a lot of confused pilots, and it confuses everybody. This is kind of a hybrid method that the FAA is willing to accept. It doesn't follow their true methodology they like, but it's a reasonable assumption of what can happen. Because we do have a taxiway Bravo as it sits today, but it's a connector off of 220 onto Alpha. I think I've actually heard pilots call it that about 4 times in my 3 years here. So it's not used very often. Or it's used, but it's just not called out. So this is kind of just an idea of where it is, and it's, as we do more projects and things, you'll see much more amount of modifications for this going forward. I mean, it will not happen all at once. It's going to be over a time phase. So.
How does this, it seems to me that this could really affect not only people who use the airport frequently, but especially people who come in new to the airport.
Yep, it definitely will, and it's never a clean system either. You'll make an update, like we'll actually realistically in 2 years when we do the decoupling project, we'll actually change November to Bravo, and we'll make some changes to Alpha as well. So you will have a time frame where the approach plates and the airport plates don't match up, so you have to publish certain things, and you'll have to, it's never clean. It's never
Without
perfect.
a control tower, somebody can't say, no, that's Alpha and this is Zulu.
But they're all marked. I mean, that's the big thing is when you change everything gets changed basically at once.
Okay. But there's like street signs, if you will, saying this is Alpha.
Yep, and it will cause, I will fully admit, for the first probably 6 months, it will cause some confusion. Typically, it's not so much the itinerant traffic, the coming in traffic, because they have moving maps in a lot of their airplanes, especially the larger aircraft. Smaller aircraft there doesn't, but if they have updated charts and things like that, it will update with them. It's more local pilots. We still have local pilots that call 624 523. It's been over a decade, so it happens.
And when does this change occur?
Once we kind of get everything finalized, the idea, we're going to create a plan for the institution of this plan, basically a phased approach. The anticipation, though, is that Bravo will be moved, November will change from Bravo once we do the decoupling project. And you'll probably see some changes along Alpha as well. The FAA does not want to do this in one large section because you can't just go out and change a panel a lot of times, especially with the A1, A4s and A1, those 1 numbers. You actually have to rebuild entire sign bases.
But these are not to be very specific, these are taxiways, not runways.
Yep, just
So
taxiways.
we're not worried about planes
Yep.
doing this.
No.
Okay,
Magnetic heading hasn't changed enough yet.
okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Stephen? All right, then. Okay, item number 2, runway hold area.
Yep, so this actually came out of the advisory board of ensuring, we were actually gonna be losing the hold area as part of the decouple project, and wanting to make sure that we still keep some sort of hold area at the end of 2.4 and 2.0. And this was 2 examples, you should have them in front of you, of what the areas we came up with between myself and TO. The larger one, they kind of have some pros and cons listed next to them. Realistically, out of the discussion with the advisory board, option A was the preferred option. The issue is we do impact the Forest Service more. It does allow for 2 category C aircraft to cross each other, or to meet basically and go past each other. It also allows for better utilization for aircraft from both runways. The issue is we're not exactly sure what the impacts to Forest Service are gonna be. We're actually gonna be having a meeting with them to discuss it. And it may push some other timelines that we had talked about previously about Forest Service, that we may have to move a little faster ahead, because the FAA, if we impact them enough, will actually participate in a reconstruction elsewhere.
Now, what's a hold area?
So hold area is an area that if an aircraft is delayed, it can park there, small aircraft can do run-ups. It's basically a temporary parking position.
Without going back to the ramp or something? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Good to know. Any other questions? Okay. Item number 3, Airport Advisory Board minutes. Is it Joan?
Probably a little bit of me and a little bit of Joan.
Okay.
So Stancraft provided an update. For the most part, they anticipate getting their hangar open in a month, and then also the shops and FBO in early November. Then they plan on doing a grand opening probably next year
Okay.
in May or June. They've also had some pretty significant staff changes, just so you guys are aware. Their FBO manager's gone, but they've actually hired a president for both aviation and marine. His name is Corey Mendenhall. He was at the meeting. He didn't speak or anything. He's just gonna be, he's the president of both companies now. So,
Okay.
we are not sure what that means or anything. It's just, that's really, we'd heard rumblings about it as the airport, but we don't know what that means exactly.
Okay. Now, their facility is complete, isn't it?
No.
Or it's not? But their offices are?
No,
That's
nothing,
not it. Okay.
nothing is. They anticipate being open in early November. For that part, the hangar is, they stated in a month, but they have a lot of work to do.
And how big is the hangar?
30,000 square feet.
Okay.
And this is not exactly on that, but this decoupling, what do you figure the cost of that's going to be total?
When it's all said and done, you're somewhere between 3 and 6 million.
And how much of that is the county's responsibility?
It'll be about, depending on the state. If the state puts in what they've been doing averaging lately, it'll be 5%.
Ours will be 5%.
5% of the 3 to 6.
And if not, is it 7.5?
It'll be 10.
Oh, 10.
If the state doesn't put anything in, it'll be 10.
Okay.
Good to know.
I can tell you right now, the FAA is about $2.5 million to $3 million set aside in 2 separate years, starting in 2022 for 2 years. However, projects change. For example, like our fence project this year, that will change because we can get additional money, because the FAA typically always is looking for additional homes at the end of the year. So.
Okay, and when does this begin?
The decoupling project, we've already started it because we started design.
You just started the design, yep, okay.
So, and that's part of the reason why we started this process.
Is that TO?
Yes.
And how long will that take?
Design should be done sometime early next year. With being everything finalized, my guess is sometime at the latest May, with the FAA sign off and everything to move forward with is May.
And that's about when construction would begin?
No.
No, because you're going to have to go out for bid?
Well, we'll be done with design significantly earlier, but we won't get grants and phasing of the project until 2022.
Okay.
And just for people who are tuning in, as they say, why are we decoupling the runways?
We're decoupling the runways because the FAA views it as a safety hazard.
As in this kind of problem? Yeah.
Not so much that problem.
What?
What they view it as is an aircraft could depart off the wrong runway and not have enough takeoff distance,
Oh, okay.
and then could deviate from pavement, and then could crash. So, for example, in Lexington, Kentucky, it was a much shorter runway,
Right.
and ended up
So
killing.
this is a real safety issue,
It's a safety issue. It's
Okay.
not a design issue.
cosmetic.
Yeah.
Stephen,
Yep.
your office, can you just remind me again what project or why that is necessitating the movement of the office?
Yep, so our office has always been inside the safety areas of 220. However, as part of some of the newer guidances for taxiways, Delta, the taxi lane that was a runway, the FAA does not like how that angle for the taxiway meets the runway. Because of that, we're actually showing it being modified to basically be as you show, if you look at the name of culture, it shows it coming down straight across. And if you look at that, that taxiway is not actually in the right spot. It's actually should be further out. And our safety areas and the pavement are about 25 feet from the back door of our facility, which puts it directly into the safety areas of that taxiway.
And what's the time frame on that?
We actually anticipate getting some funding for that, I think in 2023, 2024, but that's all precedent. We need funding, we need to move our building first.
Gotcha.
Since we're all over the map, if I may,
Go ahead.
I got a couple calls on your fence. I don't know what you're putting up out there, but it sounds like the wall. And I got a call on your sewer hookup brace. Could you address those briefly, both of them?
I'll touch on the sewer first, because that's quite simple. As we talked about when we did the fee increases, the sewer system wasn't paying for itself. Very simply put, and the raise is to cover the cost of the sewer system. Most people don't really realize the airport has 4 lift stations, probably about 20 or 30 miles of sewer line. We have to hire a separate contractor to maintain our inspections to meet state law. And realistically, next year it's probably gonna go up even more because I'm actually reviewing a contract with TO right now to follow state law and requirements. As City of Hayden recently was in the paper about having their requirements met. Because if you follow state law, what you have to do is whatever the cost of replacing the system and dividing it basically by
So
users.
you have to have reserves.
You have to have a reserve to be able to replace the system. And really, we have about 60 users on our system, and we have a lot of lift stations, we have a lot of miles, and realistically, we have a lot of old pipe,
How come it's cheaper in Hayden than it is at the airport?
because we have 60 people, and we have, if you divide it by the number of miles of pipe compared to the number of users, it's a lot more, we have to put a lot more burden on it.
So density in sewer systems is a good thing.
Yep.
Oh, economies of scale.
Yep.
Okay.
You know, there lies the issue, and as I've said multiple times to you three, I've tried to give that system to Hayden multiple times. I've tried to give it to
Kootenai rule. Nobody wants to take it.
Well, we can't get out of the joint powers.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Yet, so.
Still like to give it to them.
Still want to give it to them.
And on the fence?
So on the fence, we talked about this previously, but we have a federal requirement to actually secure the airport. That's part of our 139 requirement. And realistically, we've been not doing a good job of that because we see multiple incursions from aircraft, or not aircraft, but vehicles onto taxiways specifically through Cessna, but there's a couple other places that we're addressing also. Because people think it's a roadway. We found little old ladies driving down 624. We found Panera delivering on the taxiway. We found semis using the airport as a turnaround inside on a taxiway, cutting off aircraft. And we're trying to slowly seal up every access point that we can, which is why we're changing our gate access system. We're wanting to seal off Cessna as it was originally designed to be. We're trying to do everything we can to ensure the safety of the airport, protect people's investments of hangars, because we typically average about 1 to 2 damages to hangars. In fact, G-Feller has actually, they've had their own hangar hit, one of our advisory board members. And it's
1 to 2 a week, a month?
a year. A year.
Sounds like, yeah.
It's just where people have had their hangars hit, whether we know
With
who it
car-
is.
with cars?
Typically with vehicles, or boats. People don't know how to tow very well usually. And that's the problem that we run into, is we need to secure the field to ensure that we don't have unauthorized access throughout.
Speaking of that, how's the key card thing going?
We're slowly installing where we can, and the last ones, the most important gates will actually be swapping over on September 30th, so October 1st, everything will be in access.
Are you getting a lot of complaints on that?
Some here and there, just because it's a change, but
Are any of them reasonable? Or just, we don't like it because it's not the way it always has been?
most are typically that. Whether or not we listen and we try to make accommodations. The big thing though is we've had about 60 to 80 people actually come in and get their testing done. And it's really simple. Most people are averaging about 20 minutes in our office and then they're gone. We don't see them for 2 years, and the next time they come in, do you still have a valid license? Yep. Fill out the form and you're out. It's about 5 minutes after that. So it's, for the most hangar tenants, as long as they're not trying to access a taxiway or runway, it's not very hard. As long as you can, and really realistically, most of the time we're trying to do education. Because a lot of times piloting an aircraft is a lot different than operating a vehicle on an airport. Because people forget that they're supposed to give way to aircraft instead of you are an aircraft. So, but back to the fencing, we are, like I said, this is not the only place that we're trying to secure. We're also working with Aerostar to secure that location. We're trying to accommodate some of their needs because they're a business. There's other spots, specifically Resort actually is another one, because they take a lot of access points. We're trying to work with them on how to solve their issues too. So there's a bunch of other locations besides Cessna that we're trying to deal with, because we don't want to continue to have major issues.
And where's the funding from this additional fencing coming from?
We'd want to take it from the airport's fund.
So just your fund balance?
Yep.
And then, the STAR MOU to use the north side, did you have a letter or anything to let them know that that was all torn up?
We notified them. The problem is they actually advanced the contract on us. But prior to us, they actually moved it up by about a week on us, the contractor, due to their schedules, which was faster than we thought. We were actually working on notifying STAR program when they notified us they needed to start now. Otherwise, they're gonna have to delay the whole project about a month.
Right, but STAR, I don't think knew,
they knew that this was going to be their last year, and we did not know specifically when it was going to happen.
Right.
And then when we found out this start date, we let them know that this was gonna be as soon as it was.
Can I have a copy of that? Like, I don't know if it was email or how you let them know.
We called them and specifically let her know.
Okay, so you called who? You can let me know later. It's
Yeah.
totally fine. Yeah.
So is that sufficient, or do you need written communication?
The
Well, it's
thing,
like canceling of an MOU, so I mean, I particularly like that in writing, but,
and we can send out the notification. The thing was, is it was, the MOU, I believe, was actually canceled last year.
I remember signing.
Expired or canceled?
We canceled it last year, and this was more of a operating under, you can continue to use it until it's gone.
Okay, so if you can get me any of that documentation, that'd be awesome.
Because you as the board canceled it last year because we knew this was coming. And we were allowing them to continue to operate as
Sort of at will?
at will,
Okay.
if I remember correctly.
Okay, yeah, if you can just get me that, that'd be perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else?
If we want to,
Yeah.
also just give you, kind of talk about the parachute operations,
Yes.
just real briefly, because I know that's kind of something I'm sure you've heard about. They are in back operating. There was quite a bit of a snafu with the FAA and us, realistically. Where they're operating on the east side was actually in violation of the FAA's orders, because they're operating over a condensed area, or a populated area, excuse me. We actually relocated them over to west of Empire, and it's not in a populated area, so they don't need a certificate of authorization to operate. We've had multiple complaints about it, but the problem goes back to if they aren't in violation of our rules and things like that, we still have to allow them to operate because the FAA views them as an aircraft. In fact, I had a meeting with the regional certification inspector, Peter Doyle, and also Gary Gates, our FAA program manager, about this. And he agreed until they basically violate our rules, we can't not allow them to operate. As soon as they do, we can. And they were a borderline, almost did, and we could probably push it that they did, but they're in claim that they didn't. So it's not one of those things that is clear and cut and dry, in my opinion, enough. So kind of where we sit today. They did.
When do they typically jump, Stephen?
They jump about once a month for 4 days a week, or 4 days during that week. And they jump pretty continuous. Like this weekend, I think they put 80 people out.
Is it seasonal?
It will be completely seasonal,
What altitude are they jumping from?
about 10.5.
Okay.
And it's during extremely busy times. Luckily, we haven't had a bad forest fire season, so we haven't had to worry about that. But my guess is if we have bad fire season, we're not going to have many jumpers either because you can't see anything.
So they don't jump in the winter?
A little cold up there in winter.
I was gonna say. Okay.
Yeah. Also, just on FAA grants too, let you know, we do anticipate a fence grant that will be 100%. My guess is this is going to be a very short turn time. So you, Chris, might have to sign it, and then the board will probably have to approve it after the fact, because we may only have a day or two to turn it. Just depends on how everything works at the FAA.
What's the cost again?
About 600,000.
Okay. All right.
So
That it?
that's all I have. We touched on everything else that was part of the minutes, so.
Joan, did you?
The only other thing I want to mention is that I'd like to give credit to Tim Kumbrick from Empire Airlines for making a great presentation to our group on the state of the airline industry with
Oh,
COVID.
okay.
Was quite interesting. The cargo in 2019.
Yeah, not surprising.
I guess what helps balance that revenue a little bit is the cargo capacity. Airlines are somewhat surviving with cargo. And a lot of the, I think, carriers that have typically been mostly passengers, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Is converting in some cases, some of their airlines to handle more
To cargo.
this time. But you did a great presentation. It was very well received, so I just like to give you credit.
Thank you. Stephen, anything further on Alaska Air?
Nope, I've not heard anything. The thing is, I think Alaska Air is recovering somewhat.
Yeah, I've
and,
seen that.
I mean, they're talking about bringing the Boise flight back from Spokane to Boise. So my guess is they're not looking to hide airplanes in slightly more remote locations than they are currently. So I'm guessing they're not interested anymore.
Yeah, for everyone's benefit, especially the folks listening in, could just give a quick explanation of how and why we were approached.
Yep, so at the beginning of everything with COVID, we got reached out through Empire because they do maintenance work for Alaska, that they were looking to a place to store up to 100 737s or A320s size aircraft. And we figured out that we could accommodate about 70 on the field. It would take almost every piece of free pavement that we have on the airport. But we would be able to accommodate that many airplanes and would have been a pretty significant revenue boost.
Okay, thank you. Public comment? Good morning. Name and address, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is James Walsh. I'm a resident of Hayden for the last 24 years. I've been at this airport doing maintenance in various degrees for the last 22 years. I've been involved with aviation for 44 years. And I'm not happy with the direction this airport is going.
Go ahead.
This commissioner, this airport manager and myself are not seeing eye to eye right now on a lot of things. But start off, I would like the commission to question the decoupling of 224. It makes no sense at all to remove concrete from an airport runway, at all. So there should be options to add concrete across the other runway, as San Jose Airport did. Similar situation, they added concrete rather than taking concrete out. So to remove 800 feet, close to 1,000 feet of a runway, eliminates many aircraft capability coming and going. So they say there was a commission on decoupling. I've yet to be able to contact anybody that recommended taking concrete out from a runway, as stated to the commission. So second is the fencing issue, of which a situation happened with my hangar, with this manager here. No contact to me, no contact to the renter next to my hangar, the other hangar renter. Put 2 concrete barriers in to block an easement without even contacting the owners. Okay? His statement was, no matter what I do or say, those concrete barriers are not coming out. End of quote. So I would like to meet with the commissioners collectively or individually to discuss the other issues I have come up with involving this management. So nothing is questioned. The cost of these fences is not questioned. The question of the decoupling runways is not questioned. It seems like he's got free reign. Nobody is questioning any movement coming out of this office. So at this point, the advisory committee is not questioning anything either. I'd like to meet with you guys if we can set that up in a private session without the manager here.
Okay, we'll get back with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Cameron? No, sir. Okay, so the time is now 9:32. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.